I'm somebody that has like a lot of different interests and hobbies. I think that's because if I see a group of people and they look to like legitimately be having a good time and excited about something, I want to get in on the excitement, which in turn led me to the Pensacon convention here in Pensacola. I host the celebrity panels and have been hosting the Pensacon Short Film Festival for, it's so crazy to say out loud, but for 10 years plus now. It's introduced me to all sorts of different fandoms and hobby groups and communities, and I just love to see people come together and celebrate these things that outsiders may look at as being quirky or even weird. A little over 2 years ago, my buddy Colby called me one night and said, "Hey, my friend Brian just now got this new Godzilla pinball game and you gotta come over and check it out." And when I was over there, Colby and I were talking, and he kind of mentioned this invite-only pinball tournament that goes on over in Perdido at this guy named Jamie's house. And I thought it sounded fascinating. Fast forward just a little bit, and coincidentally, I end up moving over to the same side of town as Jamie. So Colby calls me again, and he's like, "Look, I've been telling you that you're gonna really dig this. You need to come with me and check this out. You got no excuse at this point." And I'm like, "All right, you're right, let's go."
The City of Five Flags Pinball League is a very eclectic bunch of people with one common interest, and that is to play pinball. Several years ago, I was introduced through another friend to Brian Varley.
I had just recently gotten into fixing old arcade games, like no interest really in pinball at that point. And an old buddy of my brother's, Michael Silver, reached out to me and said, "Hey, I think you and Jamie will hit it off." And like, this was a group message. I was like, "Who's this Jamie guy?"
Through some conversation, he and I realized we had some common interest, and we wanted to play some pinball, and we wanted to get like-minded folks to join us.
So we walk through the front door, and I'm immediately just like, "Oh, this is amazing." There's pinball machines just everywhere throughout this house, and people hanging out at each of them, playing the games, and I should have been doing this a long time ago. Why did I wait so long, Colby? He's like, "Yeah, I told you." So in addition to having to be invited, you also have to bring a food item and bring $10. The food item is because they do a potluck before every tournament, which is cool because it allows you to be able to kind of get to know other members of this league. The $10 is for the buy-in for the tournament. It ups the stakes, you know, enough to make it exciting. After the tournament, somebody gets to walk away with a little bit of prize money. You know, I don't really have like a nostalgic connection to pinball. Not in the same way I do retro video games. I'm of the Nintendo generation, which is just something I say to say that I recall getting the classic NES one Christmas, and just so many good times of playing that with my brothers. And something that was also popular when I was growing up was going to the arcade. And there was this Holiday Inn on Navarre Beach. Me and my best friend Shane, we went there and fed so many quarters into Mortal Kombat 2. Both of us got super good at that game. In fact, we were on leaderboards like all over the area. But at that same arcade, there was a Attack from Mars pinball machine in the back. I played it a little bit. I thought it was fun. It didn't capture me in the same way that Mortal Kombat did, but I do recall playing that game.
There are people that have played pinball their entire life for whatever reason. Maybe they grew up with it. Maybe they went to a laundromat or an arcade. Everybody has a different reason for playing pinball.
I grew up with pinball. My grandparents owned a Flash Gordon. 1981 pinball machine. All I remember is all the flashing lights and just being in awe of the game itself. So I just love pinball in general.
When I was in college, I worked at a bowling alley and we had a pinball machine. In fact, we had an 8-ball deluxe, just like the one that Jamie has. And I put a lot of quarters in that thing.
I took 25 years off. And then I came to do work for Jamie one day, and my favorite game when I was a kid, 8-Ball Deluxe, was here, and that's how I got involved in pinball again.
Oh, my first pinball memory, I was 7 years old. It was at an arcade here in town. They had Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace machine, came out in 1999.
My family would go out for lunch after church on Sundays, and we always went to Godfather's, and they had a game room, and so I'd always bug my parents for some quarters, and they had an Addams Family pinball, so it was the very first machine I ever played pinball on, and it holds a kind of a dear spot for me.
The first game I bought was F-14 Tomcat. It was a childhood memory of mine. We all went out to Washington, D.C., and for some reason I found it more interesting to sit there and play that game and shove quarters in it than go to the Smithsonian. I brought it back home, I set it up, and I quickly realized that something on it wasn't quite working, and I had to call them just to figure out how to open the thing. I was starting from scratch.
Interestingly, a couple of months ago, I was at my grandmother's funeral and I was talking to my older brother and I was talking to some of my older cousins as well, telling them about this project, and they're like, "You don't feel like a nostalgia when it comes to pinball?" I'm like, "No, not really. I don't feel like I ever played it." And they reminded me or made me aware that my dad used to work on pinball machines and he liked it enough to have purchased one, and my older brother and my cousins would play that thing all the time. And I guess I was just a little too young to remember it because I really don't have any recollection of that happening. But being reminded that my dad was like a big pinball fan makes me wish that I would have shared that experience with him while he was still with us.
When I lived in Alaska, I had some family that came up and visited, and I remember during that trip, my mom and my aunt were playing with my daughter, and they had a lot of fun. Let me tell you, there's a couple of kids that are consistent dream crushers here.
Holy crap.
People show up and they will realize that their next game is against a little blonde kid about this tall, and he proceeds to annihilate them one by one. We affectionately refer to a couple of them as the little pinball assassins. My daughter's another example. She doesn't even really play with our leagues too much. She's at that social age where she wants to hang out with her friends. She doesn't really want to hang out with the pinball group. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had 3 or 4 people over, and my daughter came out and played with us. She just came out and played one game, and she scored higher than, much higher than on Game of Thrones than any of the 4 of us.
I kind of suck. I've been going ever since that first tournament for about 2 years now, and I've attended way more than I missed. That said, I was filming for several of the events, so I didn't participate in some of them, but I've definitely got some reps in, so you'd think I'd be better, but yeah, I'm not great. I've never walked with any prize money. It's still a good time though. It's not like anybody, cares that I'm not great, unless you're one of the people that get stuck with me on your team during the tournament. What are you gonna do?
For me, it's much more important to bring the people together.
One time we went to a barcade called Captain Crazy's out in Foley. It's a super cool spot. You walk in the front and it's like got rows of all of the classic arcade games that I loved growing up. In the back of the place, there's like a whole wall of pinball machines, and there was a pinball tournament. A lot of the members of the City of Five Flags Pinball League came out to participate, and then sure enough, there's all these other pinball fanatics that also competed. And I didn't play that time, but it was still really cool to kind of be a spectator and watch it go down, and definitely gonna go back and check it out sometime. something that's come up a few times while I was interviewing members of the league, and they would be the first to tell you that a lot of these people don't feel the most comfortable in social situations. Maybe they're not, you know, the most extroverted. And I think that's relatable to everybody to some extent, you know, but they kind of view pinball as this common ground, and that allows them to be able to bond with other people. I mean, if you all share a passion for this one thing, then that allows you at least a conversation starter, and then you end up making buddies with these people.
I've never been someone that's great at making friends. Like I'm awkward. Like, this person's really cool. I would like to hang out with them again. How do I go about doing that? Like, that whole process is just doesn't work in my brain. But through like what Jamie and I started, even then I was like, do I really even go to this person's house and do this? This is weird to me. Through doing that, I've gained, I think at one point Jamie told me we were up over 100 people, like as part of that community.
I don't go out to bars. I don't really, I used to be a raging maniac, and I partied, you know, a lot. And now I am more than happy just to sit out here and fix a game and order a pizza and have a couple friends over and play a little bit of pinball. So that's what's important to me.
If there's something that I would like for people to take away from this project, it's just simply whatever the weird thing that you're interested in, your people are out there. There's a lot of other people out there just dying to connect with you and share their love and enthusiasm. And maybe you've tried pinball before and you just, you know, it doesn't do anything for you, and that's fine. This project is just a window into one of infinite communities. But what I do encourage is that if you even have like a fleeting interest in something, or you see people that are having a good time and you want to get involved, dip your toe in until you find something that, like, you know, really speaks to your soul. And then a group of people that understand that and that you like being around, and take the plunge and become a part of a community.